you have seen a brief glimpse of this. So what I'm going to do still, since we have some time today, I'm going to just give you a brief little bit background why this is required, and then some of the basics, and maybe look at some of the, uh, demos, some of the use cases, and maybe look at the reporting as well. Yeah. All right.
Yes,
So
all right. I generally keep it on mute so that there are no background noises. So if my
yeah,
response is delayed by a few seconds, don't worry. Go ahead.
that's good. Yeah. Thanks. So sometime back, this gentleman was in news. So he's always been in news, but for some reasons where his Twitter account was compromised, and this mainly happened because a Twitter account for one of the cryptocurrency exchange, Binance, tweeted a message, and they claimed that they have partnered with Crypto for Health to give back 5,000 bitcoins to the community, and they floated out a link where people could donate some money, and immediately after that, similar tweets were sent accounts of uh, very influential people who have accounts on Twitter, like presidential candidate like Joe Biden, Jeff Bezos, Obama, Elon Musk, Warren Buffett, Michael Bloomberg. So the impact of this is that the bad guys who are trying to sort of mine these bitcoins, get these bitcoins, donate these bitcoins in return of the money, they were able to succeed in their in their goal because they had support from a lot of these influential people. And this breach of Twitter accounts were confirmed by Twitter and also the Twitter CEO Jack as well. And some of the other breaches for large managed service providers like Wipro, which also came out. So mind you, these companies like Wipro, Twitter, and some of the other giants like Cognizant who have been breached in the past, they have all the best of the breed, security controls. They have all the policy and governance structure in place. They follow all the best practices in terms of security configurations. They do follow all the frameworks like MITRE ATT&CK. They follow NIST. They do follow Lockheed Martin. In spite of that, still they're getting every day. Every now and then you will see in the news. Now, the impact of some of these attacks on MSPs is that when they are compromised, their end customers also get compromised because the attackers would leverage these tools which MSPs are using to manage their customers, and that's how this becomes bigger and bigger. Some of the other during the lockdown, you might have noticed and seen already. Zoom had a big issue, although they have caught up recently, by fixing all the vulnerabilities and bugs which they had in the software. So they were, getting compromised because they had a security bug which let attackers steal passwords, and there were a lot of incidents of Zoom bombing in the past. And during this, lockdown period, we've seen a lot of phishing campaigns being run to, maybe lure people to, get confidential info or money or any of that sort. So yeah, we saw that so many things are happening in the security industry. In spite of we having so many controls in place, we've seen some of these large breaches which happened in past maybe a year or so. Now, Cybersecurity Ventures, this is one of the key magazines in the security industry. They have predicted that cyber are going to go up and cost the world $6 trillion annually by 2021. This has become twofold from 3 trillion cost in 15 in a matter of just 6 years. So imagine how much is at stake. And this stat gives you a cost of data breach by country or region. So our region, the Middle East region, is the second largest or the second biggest region where the cost of a breach is second highest. In the Middle East, the cost of a breach is close to 5.97 million US dollars on an average. So which means that there are a lot of such breaches are happening, and people have to spend this much of money. So all the more security validation, security controls, security hygiene is more and more important. And because of the fact that we've seen so many such incidents in the past, the government is also very active, and they want to make sure that our organizations, especially the government organizations and enterprises, are secure. So for that, Sheikh Hamdan has launched a Dubai Cybersecurity Index. So the main goal of this index, which was developed by Dubai Electronic Security Center, and which is very closely aligned to Dubai cybersecurity strategy launched in 17. The goal is primarily to enhance the readiness of government entities in dealing with cyber crisis and emergency scenarios. Now, to help this initiative, the Dubai Electronic Security Center, what they're trying to do is they're trying to build security operations center. They're trying to use artificial intelligence on some of the big data analysis technologies to fight these cyber criminals. How organizations like us can contribute in this is by virtue of providing them some of the tools to these organizations, which can help achieve this objective of sort of ranking these organizations in terms of how effectively they are mitigating cyber risks which are happening these days, or cyber incidents which are happening these days. So this is where the tool Mandiant Security Validation, or formerly known as Verodin, is very closely aligned, and we will see how this can sort of directly help achieve this goal of Sheikh Hamdan. And of course, companies like yourselves and the other systems integrators and managed service providers, they're going to also jump in and build security operation centers, leverage AI and other security technologies, not to mention about the critical role of other vulnerability assessment, vulnerability penetration testing in the application security space, your SaaS, DAS, all of that is important, but then you still need some sort of tool which can validate the effectiveness of your security. Now, while all of these attacks are happening, the best defense is a good offense. And how you can, defend yourself in the best way is that knowing about what your attackers are doing, what tools and techniques they use. And this is what the pyramid of pain typically depicts, that, the higher you go up in this pyramid, it becomes difficult for the adversaries to, get inside your organization. Now, these are some of the building blocks of any threat intelligence platform, like hash values, IP addresses, domain names. But all of these three are very simple to manipulate and change. But however, if you go up, where the adversary, for them to change the network artifacts, or change their tools very often, and of course change their techniques as well, would cost them a huge amount of money. So that's where typically kind of remains the same. Now, if somehow we as a defenders are aware of all the tools and techniques and procedures which they leverage, then we are in a better position to defend ourselves. Now, this is one of the core building blocks of any cybersecurity organization's maturity. Of course, what other tools they are using. Sort of, the organization can be segregated into security operations center, who are running security operations center, or other organizations, who are using cyber incident response teams as well, which leverage threat intelligence, they leverage human intelligence, they have a SOC, and the third breed of highest maturity people, where they are kind of dealing with nation state actors, and they do proactive hunting of security incidents, and also sort of go ahead and attack these bad actors network as well. In the recent past, we have seen Microsoft going back and attacking the adversaries infrastructure as well. So these are kind of cybersecurity maturity models, and I would look at typically targeting these kind of organizations who have a very decent security practices in place, and only then they would realize and understand the importance of these kind of platforms which we are talking about today, which is Mandiant Security Validation. Just to move forward, before that, I want to quickly highlight what other things which FireEye has. You may or may not be aware of all of these, but at the core of FireEye, they have a FireEye's security operations platform, which is powered by Helix. It's called Helix Security Operations Platform. So this is a complete security incident and event management platform as well as orchestration platform. So it's nothing but a SIEM plus SOAR, which gives you contextual intelligence with the help of threat intelligence, award-winning threat intelligence from FireEye. Gives you compliance and reporting. It has got its own case management platform. So it's a complete security operations platform. To complement all the security controls or pointed solutions which FireEye has, like FireEye network security, forensics solutions, endpoint security, email security, even your cloud security. FireEye has managed services for consulting, for and other threat intelligence services, managed defense, incident response and retainer packages. A lot of things are there. Expertise on demand, where organizations have a basic teams in place, but then they want to know more about an incident, or they need some firefighting and FireEye to jump in and help defeat an incident or defeat an adversary. This service can be leveraged. Now we've seen that we have all of this in place. However, at the end of the day, for a CISO or a board, because security is a matter of board these days, it's no more just confined to a CISO of an organization. The CISOs also deserve a seat in the board today. So the main problem is it's not tangible, and also the fact that people are asking questions that the amount of investment they are doing in security, are they making any returns, or are these investments making them secure? Are their critical digital assets are being protected? Can we somehow reduce our budget? Can we be compromised or accidental loss of data? All of these things. The biggest problem today is that the formula which we think is a silver bullet, which is the security investment plus the effort which we put in deploying all these solutions, building all these practices, would give us effective security, is broken. And the main fact is because any solutions, cybersecurity solution is today based on so many assumptions. We assume that vendors which provide us these solutions will work as they claim. And there are a lot of assumptions made in products and deployments and configured, and the products are configured correctly. We assume that the people who are handling and deploying these products are doing their job effectively. And a lot of configuration management, change management leads to a lot of breakages if not monitored correctly for over a time or continuously. We will not get to know what has damaged or what gets broken, and then may lead to new vulnerabilities, or attacks would still be able to get inside. How this solution, the Mandiant Security Validation or Verodin, is going to help in this, break the challenge or sort of overcome this challenge, is by giving you controls which which can guarantee you the effectiveness of your tools. First of all, it gives you the visibility, then gives you tools to do optimization on your security controls, maybe do rationalization by looking at these stats and seeing that, okay, if you have two redundant solutions in place, if one of them is not giving you a better result, then maybe you can rationalize that and put that money in something else, some new project or something else. Now, while we do this continuous validation, by looking at the environmental drifts which are happening due to change management or anything else, we are able to establish a good baseline by doing all these tests continuously. Now, when a tests are done continuously, we have established a baseline, and this is how we will be able to demonstrate improvement over a time. Now we have seen this, how, what are the challenges and how this solution can overcome this. Maybe a brief 5 minutes on what this platform is comprised of. And if you see on the right side, the director, this is the core of the platform. Now, as on date, there is a model available for managed service providers where FireEye can help build this in your data center, and you can leverage that as a managed services model. But today, currently, the solution available is going to be on premise for each and every customer. So this director, either physical or virtual, gets deployed in the customer's environment. And this is the main brain where you define all the rules, you do all the configs, and you get the reporting, analytics, everything. Now, there are different integration points in your environment. Typically, a company will have in their environment antiviruses, EDRs, DLP, IDS, IPS, SIM, NGFW. SIM is the most critical component. We will see why this is most critical. So the director directly integrates out of the box with all of these technologies in place. If not out of the box, then with the help of the SIM integration, it can get the fingerprints of these technologies, and then will still be able to detect what these technologies are for which there is no direct integration. So when I say direct integration, there are hundreds of direct integrations available today. This is not an exhaustive list. For example, you have integrations with Checkpoint, Cisco, Cybereason, Carbon Black. In the SIM space, you have Splunk integration, Alien Vault, ArcSight, things like that. Even Sumo Logic, which are completely cloud-based, solutions, SentinelOne. So this is not an exhaustive list. The next building block in this is the, sort of your actors, which means that these are actually going to be either installables or these are virtual, appliances. These actors are actually could be network actors, endpoint actors, email, or even cloud actors to test, effectiveness of your security controls in your environment. Now, these actors for endpoints, they are available for Windows, Linux, Mac, things like that. And you have email actors to test efficacy of your email security. In the cloud, you have cloud actors to either launch an attack inside your organization to the other actors like endpoint or network or email. Or you can also have actors present in the cloud, public cloud like GCP, Azure, or AWS, or even Oracle Cloud, where you can test north, south, east, west, effectiveness of your security controls by the virtue of launching an attack. Now, when you launch these attacks, at the end of the day, when these attacks are launched, you do repetitive, testing of your controls. You establish a baseline, and at the end of the day, what happens is that you get a visibility on how your controls are doing, what is there in your network, and what is detecting, what is preventing, and you see an event flow going from all these security controls to your SIM platform, and then you also get a visibility whether your SIM is effectively working or not by seeing if alerts are generated pertaining to any events or not, and those alerts are being sent to the human agent as well or not. Now, what we are able to achieve is with the help of this solution is we are able to measure, manage, and improve our overall effectiveness of your security control or security practices in place. This is a high level architecture of what, when this tool is deployed, would look like. So if you can see on the extreme right, you have, okay, so before I go there, I will try to break this into different segments. So if you can see on the top left, you have a server zone, and then you have workstation zones, business zones, and you have partner network, internet zone, retail zone, or maybe office zone, DMZ. And you see all these security controls like firewall, proxy, DLP, IPS, all of these are deployed in your organization. And of course, the Veridin platform, which is Director, which has a direct integration of a SIM. And the actors on the extreme right, you have the actor deployed in one of your either public clouds. Going to be simulating an attacker. This actor is going to launch attacks inside your network. You can have network actors deployed as well, which is probably represented here, maybe deployed in the DMZ, which will check effectiveness of your network security controls like proxy, firewall, and all these things. But also you can have endpoint actor deployed in one of the PC or workstation zones or even server zones, which is going to validate the effectiveness of your endpoint security controls, AV or EDR kind of solutions. When an attack is launched from an actor in the public internet zone to the endpoint zone, it traverses through all these security controls and then gives you which tools are working fine or not. So
can you
sure.
Can I ask a few questions here?
Yeah, sure, Roshan. No worries.
So my first question here is a SIM a requirement for deploying this tool?
Not 100% requirement, but when we talk about organizations who are serious in security, they definitely have a SIM in place. Otherwise, how do they know what's working, what's not working, right? What security controls are generating events or not? Now, when it comes to SIM, you are already aware that that's the actually thing which is going to do correlation of that. Now, when we say that is SIM is required or not, if you do not have SIM, you will not be able to understand properly. You will be missing the people and process part of it. You will be not able to understand whether the alerts generated by SIM is SIM generating alerts for every such incident or not. And that can be validated because the director also has integration with all of these security controls in place using APIs with their management console or something like that. So director also gets all these events directly from the security controls as well as from SIM. So it can check whether SIM is able to generate or get all these alerts, events, and then create alerts and send those alerts to a human agent to take actions. And also the fact that that's the primary, reason why you would need SIM. Second is that if there are no native integrations in place, we can, with the help of SIM, query the SIM from the director and get those details of some of these technologies which may not have direct integration in place.
Okay, the reason I asked is because let's imagine a scenario where it's a managed SIM solution.
Sure.
So you only have a collector sitting in the office premises, and that data is then sent to a data center of the managed SIM solution provider, which could be sitting in Azure, or which could be sitting in AWS, or it could be even sitting outside the country, as an example.
Absolutely.
But in that case, obviously integration becomes key, right? So that is the reason I asked you, is integration with SIM a necessity? That's the number one question. Number two question is, you mentioned about people and processes. So people, if I understand correctly, are you referring to UEBA architecture?
No, I'm referring to
identity-based.
No, I'm referring to the SOC analysts, how effectively they are able to do their jobs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, and when you say process, what are you referring to?
So by process, what I'm referring to is, for example, it could be a lot of things, right? For example, when there is a incident which gets detected, and then if we have a process in place which says that maybe send this alert to a L1 level responder or a L2 level, and maybe at times in our organizations we follow standard framework, like for example MITRE ATT&CK framework or any NIST framework. So we are able to completely align to these frameworks, which means that we are able to continuously see and validate how our processes are working effectively, along with validating whether security controls, people, and processes are working effectively to protect you against, maybe let's say, for example, MITRE ATT&CK framework or any other framework which we have in place. It will give you a clear heat map of which security adversary techniques and tactics were actually detected and blocked by this particular endpoint security controls in your environment, and where the gaps are. So it will give you a clear heat map of actually what's working and what's not working in continuous relation with a sort of a attack framework you are following. So it sort of gives you a view of security maturity of your organization, and that could also help you make your organization much more mature in terms of if you're able to completely, maybe at some point of time in near future with the MITRE ATT&CK framework and be able to detect almost all of those, multiple hundreds of, techniques which they leverage, the attackers leverage.
So do you have a list of all the frameworks you currently support?
Yeah, so today, Roshan, completely it's in line with MITRE ATT&CK framework. There are some works done for NIST cybersecurity framework. That I think I don't have much information on that, but I was told that they're also going to make it completely aligned with NIST framework as well, NIST CSF. But today it's 100% aligned with MITRE ATT&CK framework. So we will see in some of the reporting sections or a few demos how that actually works. It gives you clear visibility of what's working, what's not working vis-a-vis direct MITRE ATT&CK framework comparison.
Okay, good.
Yep. All right. Now, we saw in this diagram that, how actually the flow of, things are when there is an attack which gets launched from outside to inside, or maybe from inside to inside, and from outside to outside in case of if you have controls in place in a sort of a cloud environment. One of the key things is the
One
endpoint.
question here, sorry.
Sure.
So is the director placed in the customer's premise? Is this a cloud-based solution?
Currently, it is not a SaaS-based solution. Currently, you have to deploy independent instances of the director in the customer premise. But I think there is a very advanced level of, discussions going on, maybe at the verge of launching. They are working on a solution where, this solution can be a multi-tenant and deployed in the managed service providers environment. And from there, they can, start onboarding multiple such customers when this is multi-tenant. So today it is 100% on-premise, but they are working on case-to-case basis with MSPs. I think there are a couple of MSPs they are already working in this region. So maybe FireEye can give more details on that. Who are these MSPs and how they are taking that approach with them. But there is a definite use case of this thing getting deployed in an MSP environment, and then only the actors are getting deployed in the customer's environment, and you can launch attacks directly and see a complete view of what's happening to that customer, and maybe use the same practice for multiple such customers and provide them managed services, maybe one-time service or a recurring service.
Okay, go ahead.
Yep. All right. So one of the key things is that the endpoint security controls. Now, when we say we're going to launch attacks, these attacks could be destructive or non-destructive. Now, when I say non-destructive, which means that we are actually not going to explode the malware in that particular machine. Let me go back a step again. Now, so what's happening here is that when we say we will deploy an endpoint actor in your environment, by that what we mean is that we're going to use a golden image of customers endpoint, and then leverage that golden image, and that golden image will also have their maybe a DLP installed, or maybe a antivirus or a EDR installed as well. So what we're going to do is install a very lightweight agent in the same golden image, a new instance of that, not on the existing endpoints. So we don't want to impact the production. So what we're going to do is that install a lightweight agent in the new virtual machine or the golden image when that is deployed. So this is going to actually launch attacks from the attacker to this new machine which we have created. So actors only launch attack on actors. We are not targeting any other machines which don't have the attackers installed. So in a way, it's very safe. There is no direct harm to the organization or any business impact. So when I say non-destructive, which means that example behaviors could be running a Mimikatz kind of thing, or which would actually just copy the Kerberos keys or any other credentials and then leverage those to do privilege escalations or do lateral movement or things like that. Now these are some of the examples of non-destructive kind of endpoint testing which we can do. And the others are where we have to actually explode a malware and see whether the endpoint security control which is deployed, whether it proactively first of all detected, first of all blocked, and if not blocked, if at all it detected it, at least if not blocked. So and this is not actually a sandbox where we're not trying to understand whether the file is a malware or not, but this is a destructive kind of endpoint where we are trying to see whether the malware which came in is actually getting blocked or not, or getting detected or not. So this could be a complete separate environment in place where, for example, if you want to test this particular variant of ransomware, which actually encrypts your files, whether the solution in place is able to detect or even block that ransomware or WannaCry or not. Similarly is the case with email security controls. Now, this email security related network actor, once it's deployed in your environment, behind your email defenses, like maybe from Proofpoint, Symantec, Cisco, or Mimecast, when an email is sent from external entity, it would check whether email defenses were working properly or not. So again, it can be leveraged to see whether your email security controls block those malicious URLs. It was able to block those, spear phishing email attacks, whether it protected you from data exfil, all these kind of things. Now, one of the main use cases of this particular solution is how it's going to help you, and how it is different from breach and attack simulations, is that it not only gives you just the visibility and a view of what's working and what's not working. By that, what I mean is that, let's say you have 5 security controls in place. A normal breach and attack simulation solution would actually only give you a visibility of whether that particular attack which was launched or simulated, whether it was detected or not detected, whether it was blocked or not blocked. It will not give you much details about which technology detected or which technology blocked, and also not give you, further things. For example, like in terms of give you 100% visibility of what's there in your environment, give you prevention capabilities, what's working, what's not working, also give you detection capabilities, which security control at least detected that. And also with the SIEM integration, will be able to give you a view of clear events which are going to the SIEM or not. Now, at the end of the day, the main role of SIEM is to alert the incident handler or the SOC analysts. It will be able to check on that as well. Now, when this is effectiveness validation process is followed initially, and you tweak your environment by the outcome of this, attack and simulation which we are doing, or the sequences of attacks, or the evaluations which we do, we are going to, at some point, maybe let's say after a month or two of some tuning, we're going to reach a baseline of security. And the goal is going to be always be at least on top, or even continuously improve on that baseline, and never drift and go down again. So this actually, we're going to create certain monitors in our environment, which means that there are a lot of simulations or sequences which we create, and we can continuously run them in our environment over a period of time or from time to time. And that would actually evaluate whether there is any drift in our environment, and whether our controls have started dropping their guard or not. So it's actually going to continuously improve over a period of time our overall security effectiveness. Some of the examples.
See, this is exactly where I'm trying to understand why a SIEM is required. Because, when you talk about the effectiveness validation process, and you brought up a very interesting point, breach and attack simulation.
Right.
So when you talk about breach and attack simulation, so basically you are actually looking at the effectiveness of the controls. Correct. Right? Which is the first part, the visibility part, right?
Absolutely.
So you're looking at the visibility part, and you could also help in preventing them, or if they are already some attacks, basically, because you do a baselining against frameworks like the MITRE framework.
Right.
Now, if because what I'm trying to understand here is the integration with the ecosystem becomes key. Now, let's say if the integration with a few of the components within the ecosystem are missing, then is the EVP process as effective, or would it be as effective, is a question mark, right? Because as I said, let's say you don't have an integration with the SIM. So you are just going to validate controls, which are the email controls, which are the network controls, and probably the cloud controls, let's say.
Absolutely, yes.
Right, but so you can provide an organization with this tool and visibility, like this is the visibility as far as the effectiveness and the efficiency of the controls are against, let's say, the MITRE framework.
For the known ones.
For the known ones, obviously, right? And then you could also say, now since I've already told you this and I've given you, a proactive heads up as to what are the gaps, you can probably prevent these kind of attacks.
Right.
However, if you don't have an integration with certain tools, you would probably not be able to detect these kind of attacks.
Absolutely, yes. If the same integration is not in place, you will never be able to detect them.
Yeah. So now these are, these are those caveats which I want to understand, because what happens is A is to show the big picture and say we can do A to Z, which is perfectly fine. I don't disagree with that. And I like the concept. I like everything, because Verodin was earlier categorized as a breach and attack simulation.
Initially, yes.
Yes. So when Gartner came out with BAS quadrant, Verodin was one of the top 10. When FireEye bought it, FireEye probably decided to integrate with your I think NX and your other solutions to get more visibility into your network, in your email security, and in your internet-based security. But what was missing is the SIM part, which some other tools don't do today. So this is where I want to look at it holistically, because when I go to a customer, I need to be very clear what is there in their ecosystem. For example, if they don't have an EDR as an example. Absolutely. Now, EDR basically, in your previous slide, you talked about many EDR solutions, CrowdStrike, SentinelOne, even Fire has got some of those things there. Now, integration with an EDR can complete this EVP loop. If not, then there are some missing things. Now, that is for me very keen to know, because that's, for my academic interest and for my knowing the product better. Till now, what you have told, it's beautiful. I completely agree with you. And probably as we go further, I'll have more questions for you. Go ahead.
Yeah, sure. No worries.
So just one note here, Roshan.
Yeah.
So FireEye, they acquired the solution based on the effectiveness of the solution. It was not the main reason to get it integrated with their install base. So it's integrating with a lot of SIM solution. We can provide you a list of integration of all security systems, if it's either on endpoint security, email security, firewalls, DLPs, SIM solutions. So you know what kind of solutions it can be work along. So but the purpose of acquiring the solution or developing R&Ds around this solution, it's not meant to be for FireEye solutions.
No, I completely agree there. I'm not saying that. Or see, you understand where I'm coming from. Let me give you an example. Okay, if you look at a SIM solution as an example, how effective is the SIM? For example, if I don't take inputs from the from the firewall,
Yep.
How effective is my SIM solution?
Yeah, sure.
It's just a box sitting out there.
Exactly, because the purpose of a SIM solution is to tell you who did what, when, how. For example, somebody logged in on a
Correct,
Friday, for
correct,
example,
correct,
right?
100%.
With an administrative login at this point in time and access this files. But let's say, and I'm talking about these are use cases which I've experienced in my professional career, where there are blind spots, because I know that it came from the firewall, but I don't know the intermediate systems where it went through, because we were not collecting logs from there. So there is a blind spot in your entire ecosystem. That's the reason when I talk about an ecosystem is the kind of integrations you have with all the different kind of components. Because today that is the key, and that's why I was trying to understand how important is a
So,
SIM to the overall.
so on that point, Roshan, let me actually give you some more insights. How exactly this works is, so when we go to customers and we ask them, okay, let us know, some of the different zones where we can, deploy these. Don't tell us what security controls you have. Don't tell us, what is there, what is not there. But we need to do this integration with SIM for the fact that, I'll come to that again later. But before that, what happens is, when initially we have deployed some of these, actors, maybe a network actor or endpoint actor in some of these different zones, and a external actor which is going to act as an attacker. Now, when a first action or a sequence or a evaluation is run, a sort of a attack is run, it's going to do enumeration of your network. Okay. Now, when it does the enumeration, it is able to collect all of that data which is present in the customer's organization. So whatever comes in the path is able to detect by the virtue of native integration, which is in hundreds. Okay. Mind you, there are more than hundreds of integrations currently available. So by default, it is able to detect from that.
There are 250 plus integrations available,
Yeah.
250
Yeah. To
technology
be
integration.
precise, yes.
And
So,
just one note here. So SIM is for the SIM solutions, Splunk is there, Logarithm is there, IBM QRadar is there. So the main vendor or the main players in the SIM solutions are there are integrating by default.
yeah. So what's happening, Roshan, is that when initial enumeration is done, it is able to by default check, okay, out of these 250 plus native integrations, if there is anything new which, by the virtue of this enumeration, if the director has noticed, which customer may not even have known, or they may not even have told us, it is going to get automatically captured by the virtue of, the integration with SIM. Because at any given point of time, a SIM either is integrated in their environment with that particular security control, which does not have a direct integration with Verodin. It will get the Verodin will get that information via the SIM integration, because every technology has a fingerprint, and when we query the SIM, we will get to know that. Does it make a little more sense now? How we know that there are no blind spots?
Yeah, yes. Please go ahead.
Yeah.
Please go
All right. So some of the use cases, and I will try to show you a quick demo of this as well, is that we can evaluate, testing of our web defenses, or accessing system effectiveness or technology POCs, as well as doing baselining. So what I mean by this is that some of the vendors today say that, okay, we will give you a solution which is going to foolproof against, let's say, a ransomware or a WannaCry kind of thing. How do we test such security controls? How do we do POC? So this platform gives you a complete sequence of more than 14 plus different variants of WannaCry attack, or 2 or 3 different variants of the actual malware WannaCry decryptor being used, and so many other things. So you can do baselining with this, technology POCs, testing your web defenses, systems effectiveness testing. All these kind of testings can be done. Similarly, when you use a sequence, as an example, a sequence of an attack is actually a full multi-stage attack, which we're going to launch on the actors which are installed in the customer premise. So how this is going to help is that, with the help of that, you can let your people, sort of, when you do a blue teaming and red teaming kind of exercise, your agents can get to know how these attacks work and what actions they need to take, and all these things. You are able to do continuous testing and tuning of your security controls. Your offensive teams provide the defenders a repeatable sequence so that, it's more like doing an external audit, but in a repeated mode where this, when put in a sort of a workflow, it's going to automatically test over a period of time randomly or whatever based on what you define. For example, if you have PCI DSS assessments coming in at a certain period of time, and before that, you can, sort of automate that. Okay, let's every 3 months check whether I am PCI compliant or not. Because in today's world, compliance is just a checkbox. Companies just do that for the sake of passing that audit.